Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of this beautiful country that you're in. I am your host, Sheila Gunn Reid. On the wrong side of the screen, this is Rebel Roundup, our daily news and opinion show, and I'm joined by a different co-host. I have a bunch of different co-hosts, but Friday sometimes is David Menzies. Today it's Drea Humphrey out in BC. How's it going, Drea?
Good. It looks like I'm in slow motion again, but I'm loving it out here in BC. It is absolutely stunning out. I mean, you could go out in shorts and a t-shirt today. It looked like your weather isn't that bad either, but I don't know why I start with weather. People don't like when I do that, but I can see I'm looking at a very beautiful scenery, which is why it reminds me of that.
I'm a farmer. I'm concerned about weather constantly. It's one of my favorite topics. So I'm happy to talk about the weather. It is windy as all get out there. Like it's, a house will land on a witch on a day like today with all the wind. It's just crazy. But we should get into the news of the day. Because it's packed. Yesterday, before we went off air, we had liberal gun ban announcements, and then Mark Carney telling us how little he knows about the existing state of Canadian firearms laws. I'm happy to bring him up to speed, but we should tell everybody how they can get involved. Drea, I'll let you do that.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on the Rebel Roundup. And I love Rebel Roundup because I get to just debrief. I feel like we're going through so much so fast that this is like the perfect time for the viewers who are watching and us to just kind of vent and let it all out. So one of the ways that we invite you to do that, and it also actually helps support our journalism. So if you support independent journalism, especially the kind that sometimes has to have our back up against the wall while we bring you the truth to the other side of the story, you can be a part of the show by, if you're on YouTube, engaging in what's called a super chat. You send us a super chat with a donation of $5 or more. We read that. Sometimes you guys break the news because as we're sitting here, it's unscripted, but we have a little outline. Sometimes things happen. But let us know your opinions that way as well. And of course, if you are on Rumble with our free speech friends, you can leave us a Rumble rant there as well. And if you are watching after, there is something called YouTube called a Super Thanks. So if you just appreciate, again, the work that we do and you want to donate, we so very much appreciate that. And who knows how long our remonetization with YouTube will last this time.
Yeah, it's as I firmly believe it will end in tears. I think our tears. Because you never know. You never know. Like the rules are so vague and so arbitrary. We're doing our best to follow them while staying true to ourselves and our consciences. But who knows? If they don't want you, they'll let you know. They'll just flick the switch on you one day. So far, I think they're worried about being trust busted by Donald Trump. So they're sort of lightening up on conservative broadcasters, but who knows? Who knows how it's going to go? Speaking of internet censorship, what a great segue. Mark Carney, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. As you know, Justin Trudeau's government was one of the most censorious on the face of the earth outside of China and North Korea and a couple of fringe places. With the Online Streaming Act, the Online News Act, the Online Harms Bill. Luckily, when the Parliament was prorogued, the Online Harms Bill died. But it is a zombie, and it will be back because Mark Carney is promising to crack down on digital free speech. And of course, he's blaming his favorite enemy, Donald Trump, for allowing a sea of misogyny and conspiracy theories to just sweep into Canada. This guy is so anti-American. It's like his entire identity is boring, but anti-American to like in the most vicious possible way. But anyway, let's listen to this.
We need to do it because.
Come on. You know what? One of the things that is it's interesting. I earlier today, I'll get back to Trump and trade and everything, because we can't avoid it. But earlier today, we announced a series of measures on crime. And we announced a series of measures with respect to online harm and other factors. And one of the observations we had, one of the issues we're dealing with, there's many serious issues that we're dealing with respect to crimes of violence, conjugal violence, drugs, fentanyl, others. But one of them is with respect to really just the sea of misogyny, anti-Semitism, hatred, conspiracy theories, this sort of pollution that's online that washes over our virtual borders from the United States. And that's a mild version of that. That's fine. I can take the conspiracy theory and all that. But the more serious things is when it affects how people behave in our society. When Canadians are threatened going to their community centers or their places of worship or their schools, or God forbid, when it affects our children. So we, my government, if we are elected, will be taking action on those American giants that come across.
Huh. So he wants to make talking about conspiracy theories with your friends online a criminal offense. I like how he points to the Americans as the problem with the rise of anti-Semitism in Canada. It's not. It's the Liberals. It's progressive cities. It is our universities. It is the Liberals' friends. It's the Liberals' base that is spreading and proliferating anti-Semitism. And it's not online. It's in real life on our streets and in our universities. Do something about that. I don't care about the online LARPers spreading anti-Semitic memes, but whatever. I'm more concerned about the tangible violence and calls to genocide happening on the streets of Canada's major cities, and the Liberals are like this about it. They don't want to see it because that's their base. Do something about that. Enforce the existing laws. Don't shut up people online.
That's key right there. We already have laws in place to keep rule and order in these types of things. One thing that stood out to me is that he included misogyny in how they're going to crack down on crime. Like, what does that look like? So, and what exactly is misogyny these days? Yeah, and he's talking about this concern for places of worship. I'm sorry, are you not aware of the church burning sprees that have been taking place when you, of all people, should know, based on your father's research, that is sparked based on inflammatory statements. But you're right, he is anti-Trump and anti-America because that's the best tool they have to try to win this election, right? Keep making it a war against America to go with these things and completely ignore all the things, all the actual literal crimes that have been emboldened by a lack of cracking down from the Liberal government and provincial governments as well. I mean, out here in Vancouver, we've had crazy things happen. We had a literal anti-Israel protester try to gouge out a female Vancouver Police Department officer's eyeball. Like that's nuts. Who even goes for that? And you want to talk about misogyny? How about that? Is that misogynistic enough for you? We've had, of course, we've had like the firebomb kind of thing thrown at the synagogue out here. We had the anti-Canadian movements right alongside with the anti-Israel movements as they're ripping apart Canadian flags and chanting death to the United States, death to Canada, and death, of course, to Israel. So now all of a sudden when someone, I believe what the heckler was saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is tell us the story about the children on it. It sounded like he said, tell us the story about the children on the island. That's what I heard. Let me know in the comments. Good time to give us a chat if you heard something else. But that's another thing. Note he wants to crack down on censorship when that's what's asked of him. He's not refuting that those pictures are real. He's not saying that that's doctored or anything. He's just saying, oh yeah, we're going to censor discussions like that. And I think that's the real core of what he's saying. That's how we're going to take care of people like you asking questions that should be asked by every journalist, but of course is not being asked.
Yeah, I mean, I think the anti-Semitism phone call, by the way, Mark Carney, that's coming from inside the House. You don't want to talk about anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. How about we have an arms embargo against Israel? We don't. How about there's a genocide happening in Gaza? There isn't. How about those anti-Semitic tropes? How about the anti-Semitic trope spread by our Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, when she repeated Hamas propaganda that Israel had bombed a hospital when it was a misfired Hezbollah rocket, if I recall correctly. So how about those? You know, how dare you go around telling people what's real and what isn't, what's a conspiracy and what isn't, what's anti-Semitism and what isn't, when you guys are the biggest BS peddlers on the internet, and the mainstream media, who are bought and paid for by the Liberals, just barf it out into the atmosphere, thinking Canadians are dumb enough to buy it. And based on the polls, maybe some of them are.
Oh, Lord help us.
Exactly.
Those polls.
I know. And we'll get to what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say about Carney's remarks. But Carney says that he's going to make it a criminal offense to intentionally and willfully obstruct access to any place of worship, school, or community center. I've got my thoughts on this. Why I think that phone call is also coming from inside the House. But let's hear what Carney has to say.
Unfortunately, the rising tide of hatred online is overflowing onto our streets. Violence and intimidation have no place in Canada. Anti-Semitism and Islamophobia must be denounced in the strongest possible terms. And I am appalled by the horrific incidents and numerous incidents in our country in recent years.
What are they?
I go to church myself, and I've reflected on stories like what has happened with the Temple Sinai Synagogue, what they've had to face right here in the GTA. Its signage has been repeatedly set on fire. Its congregants now have to pass through metal security bollards before they can even enter. And its leaders have had to set up active shooter drills to prepare for the worst. I've heard this advocacy directly from the community, including from last month's National Anti-Semitism Forum. There are also far too many violent Islamophobic attacks on mosques and other places of worship and community centers across this city and across this country. And I'll be clear. If any Canadian can be threatened when simply exercising a fundamental freedom, then all of our freedoms as Canadians are at risk. And we refuse, my government refuses to allow Canadians to feel threatened when visiting their place of worship, when sending their kids to school, when going to a community center. And that's why we will make it a criminal offense to intentionally and willfully obstruct access to any place of worship, to any school, any community center. And we will make it a criminal offense to intimidate or threaten those attending services at these locations.
Well, if you remember, during lockdowns, we again already have a law like that. It was a section 173. I used to know it off by heart, but it is already unlawful to go ahead and interrupt any religious service. But that certainly went out of the window under the Liberal government, didn't it? During COVID, when you would have seeds of news reporters filming license plates at Christian places of worship and completely ignoring the gatherings that were taking place in industrial buildings for Muslims. They never said anything about that. So that's another example. And I shouldn't say I hate to go back to the churches, but can we just point out he is only talking about two types of hate against religious groups. And you yourself, Sheila, you did that great report that helped expose that under the Liberal government, since I think it was 2016, there has been about 460 churches that have been attacked, mostly by arson, correct? So why are we not throwing Christophobia and these concerns about cracking down, about protecting places of worship? Under the Liberal government, it's the Christians who are attacked most for their beliefs.
I forget the number, and I should remember, but I think it's hate crimes against Catholics have gone up like 150%. But nobody talks about it because it is fomented by the government. It's, by the way, it's Section 176 of the Criminal Code, addresses offenses related to disturbing worship and certain meetings. So it goes beyond just places of worship. It can be, 260%. I'm sorry. I rounded way down. It's just exploding. And this is attacks on our churches, because Justin Trudeau said he could understand why it was happening to us instead of being appalled and revolted at the crimes against us. But he's a Catholic, just like Mark Carney, and not at all like me. This is another, like, Mark Carney makes an announcement about something that's already in the criminal code. He did the same thing with firearms yesterday too. But again, the phone calls coming from inside the House. This is the government that closed our churches and oversaw federally the incarceration of our pastors. Now, provincial governments are responsible too, but nobody said, hey, maybe we shouldn't be locking those people up. They encouraged our churches to stay home, to stay safe, because we're all in this together, and we hear the exact same language. Again, stay home to stay safe from the Americans.
Yeah, and the RCMP was the biggest enforcers of that in where I live, at least the local, municipality police they didn't entertain it.
Once Mark Carney's going to be shocked to find out that there's Section 176 in the criminal code. Let's move on. Anyways, he's going to keep us safe. Let's go on to the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, had some things to say yesterday about Mark Carney, who said that there's an arms embargo against Israel. There isn't. And that there's a genocide happening in Gaza. And there isn't. So he said somebody yelled at him. We showed the clip the other day about a genocide in Gaza. And he said, I'm aware, that's why we have an arms embargo. And the idiotic crowd of Liberal voters said, Carney, Carney, Carney. That's an anti-Semitic trope being peddled on the internet by Mark Carney. Like I said, the phone call, it's inside the House, Mark Carney. So Benjamin Netanyahu said Canada has always sided with civilization. So should Mr. Carney. But instead of supporting Israel, a democracy that is fighting a just war with just means against the barbarians of Hamas, he attacks the one and only Jewish state and the only democracy in the Middle East. Mr. Carney, backtrack your irresponsible statement. This is like a full 180 from the conservative viewpoint on this. Stephen Harper was the first Canadian prime minister to ever address the Knesset. That's the Israeli parliament. He was a good friend of Israel, as it is the only place of peace and justice in the Middle East. And Mark Carney, he's siding, as Benjamin Netanyahu says, with the barbarians, the people who murdered children in front of their mothers and wives in front of their husbands.
Do we have a clip?
No, there's no clip.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It was just a statement. No, it's just a statement.
Yeah, no, it's messy. I mean, you're saying it all right. He's just saying it's just smokes and mirrors, really. And I think society, unfortunately, is so busy and we're so distracted. We become lazy with knowledge. So someone says something and they are a leader. Yeah. And therefore, we immediately accept it. And that maybe that's across the board. It shouldn't be. But that's what's happening. Everything Mark Carney is saying, like half of it is just what his competitor is saying. They're like, yeah. And then he says nonsense like this. He's talking about new laws that are already old laws and they're cheering him on. And now he's saying this, which is the exact thing he says he's going to crack down on. Like it's literally, I feel like, the definition of insanity. If we certainly, it will be if we vote them in again. That's I
Don't
guess, we're
don't
just
say we.
saying-
I'm
Yeah.
on the prairies.
Yeah.
Don't say we. We have no part of whatever's going to happen to the rest of the country if they lose their
Yeah.
minds and elect Mark Carney. Then we don't do that around here. We haven't done it ever. We don't do that around these parts. Now, Mark Carney told Joe Warmington he didn't know what Benjamin Netanyahu said about him.
Oh,
Now,
look at that.
so Mark Carney has to choose here between not caring or not knowing. And if you have a prime minister who doesn't know that he just caused a major diplomatic incident with Benjamin Netanyahu, do you want him running the place, or he's lying because he knows and just doesn't care? He could say, like, geez, I misspoke. I didn't say that. I mean, we all heard him, but he's not even trying to backtrack. He's just like, I didn't know anything about it. Your handlers didn't tell you that the prime minister of Israel is angry at you? Give me a break. Let's show
They were
this.
too
Good
busy
for Joe,
out
by the way.
buying. The handlers were buying strawberries at that moment, so they.
Right. Buying strawberries for Count Orlok.
Prime Minister, did you want to address Benjamin Netanyahu's comment today on Twitter?
I didn't see what he said.
Well, he wants you to withdraw the Gaza comment. Have you considered it?
He's like, "Where's my decoy? Why'd you have me
Yeah,
walk
exactly.
out this way?" Oh man.
You know, they'll never find a decoy with as poor a posture as Mark Carney. Like
Mr.
all
Burns.
of liberal, his posture is absolutely villainous. I made most of liberal X mad at me because I remarked on his posture and how it's completely osteoporotic. And they're like, that's the hood on his jacket. There's no hood there, friends. That's his hunch. And let's just be real about it. Let's just be honest about it. Don't be mad at me. It's the truth.
You called it out. You call it like it is. That's what we do. Facts, not feelings. Something.
Yeah. Drea, show the clip or show the tweet from For Canada. Here it is.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Right? It's totally what he looks like.
Yeah. I called
Oh,
him and his
man.
wife Count Orlok and his familiar when they were walking through the woods. And everybody was mad at me. All the people who were never going to vote conservative. Yeah. Count Orlok and his familiar on a casual stroll in the Transylvanian woods after disposing of the suckled corpse of his latest victim. Colorized.
That is hilarious.
Oh, they're also mad at me too. They're like, what? That's it. You've sealed it. We're never voting conservative. And then you go to their like X account and it's just all like venomous against conservatives. So it's like, no, you weren't. You're just mad that I'm funny. Sorry.
Amy Ham. I see Amy Ham thinks you're funny. So
Yeah, exactly. That's what counts. I don't care if boring liberals don't think I'm funny. Okay, let's hit a Rebel News ad break and they'll come back and we'll talk about Brookfield. Every time that Mark Carney makes a policy announcement, what you need to ask yourself is, how does this make Brookfield money? Like, I'm convinced that Brookfield has an arm that is in the gun mulching business because when he's like, we're going to accelerate the gun grab, I'm like, how is Brookfield getting rich? I'll figure it out. They must have some recycled metal arm of the company, but we'll see. But let's hit an ad break and we'll come back and talk about Brookfield and the Cayman Islands.
Hey, do you remember how the media party talked about our Canadian flag during the Freedom Convoy of the truckers? They hated it. They hated them singing our anthem. These are the same people who stripped John A. Macdonald off the $10 bill. But now that Mark Carney is campaigning against Trump's tariffs, suddenly Canadian patriotism is cool again? I mean, look at this.
Everyone sees the main threat as the Trump tariffs. And Donald Trump as we know, has put, as the Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living. He's attacking Canadian families, workers, and businesses, and we cannot let him succeed. Because when we are united, we are Canada strong.
Funny how that works, but I didn't need tariffs or approval from politicians to stand with Canada. You know, I've been a flag-waving patriot for a while, including when the truckers went to Ottawa. Still am now. That's why we just launched a new merch line called I Didn't Need Tariffs to Start Loving Canada. I like this one with the trucker protest imagery. It reminds me that these now proud, woke liberal Canadians that, well, they're a bit late to the party, and I don't believe them, by the way. Get yours now at rebelnewsstore.com.
Mark Carney, Trudeau's money man, globalist, China's pal. Weeks in, he jets to Beijing, scores a $250 million loan from their state bank. 11 MPs tied to Beijing. Carney's crew says nothing, selling us out. Foreign cash, secret deals. Carney's Canada.
All right, I'm glad that we talked about secret deals and Trudeau's money man, because as it turns out, as the headline at CTV, Brookfield, that's Mark Carney's company that he is still heavily invested in, but it's in a blind trust now, so he pretends like he doesn't know what's going on. And he pretends like he didn't just run the company up until like 90 seconds ago. Brookfield registered entities to Grand Cayman address that Obama called the biggest tax scam in the world. And we still don't know where Mark Carney pays his taxes. So which seems like a real easy thing to answer. Like if somebody said, Sheila, where do you pay your taxes? Canada. But Mark Carney can't answer that question, which is very strange. We've got a clip from Polyev talking about Brookfield's registered entities to the Grand Cayman. And this is like comes on the heels of like he had money registered in Bermuda and then moved the head office of Brookfield to the United States. So the tax regime in Canada that Mark Carney advised the Trudeau Liberals to create and inflict on us, he completely escaped it. So let's hear from Polyev on this.
After the lost Liberal decade of rising crime and costs and a falling economy under America's thumb, we can't afford a fourth Liberal term. We need a new government that will bring change and hope to the people, that they can again earn a great living and live in a nice house that they can afford on a safe street under our proud flag. Now, Liberals don't want us talking about those. They want us to, Mark Carney wants us to forget about the last 10 years and his role in bringing about the lost Liberal decade. He doesn't want to answer questions about why he stuffs his corporate cash in overseas tax havens. So he's in hiding from that as well. He doesn't want to answer questions about his connection to the regime in Beijing, from which he got a $250 million loan from his company only 6 months ago while he was economic advisor to Justin Trudeau. An incredible conflict of interest. He doesn't want to answer questions about the ongoing conflicts he has with tens of millions of dollars potentially invested in a company that has money in overseas tax havens, owes a debt to the Chinese Communist government, and has countless other conflicts that he will not reveal to Canadians. That's why he is not responding to questions. I'm here sharing a message of hope and change to put people back, give people back the Canadian promise. That's what we're here for. Let's put Canada first for a change.
Remember when they were going after Trump for the taxes? I don't see that same outrage from the left with this situation. Do you? It's like,
no, and they're like,
quiet.
well, it's just smart money management. Okay,
Yeah.
but if it's smart, why isn't he repealing the onerous taxes that Canadians have to face? Because if it's smart outside of Canada, then it is stupid to inflict it on Canadians who don't have the ability to move billions of dollars offshore to escape Canadian taxes. I mean, it's It's insane. I can't even believe that there's this bump in the polls for Mark Carney, because every day, it's a scandal. It's foreign interference. It's hiding money offshore. It's being absolutely stupid. I don't see it on the list of things to talk about. Like he's going to bring in Section 176 of the Criminal Code, which is already there. The other thing he said that he's going to do, and I don't see it on the list, but Efron, if you scroll up, you'll see it. I dropped it in the chat above our list of topics. Mark Carney doesn't know what the gun laws are, which is how I know that Mark Carney has never gone through the onerous, invasive, and humiliating process of getting your PAL or your RPAL, that's your restricted possession and acquisition license. Every single day, we are vetted by the RCMP. If in this, first of all, there are red flag laws. They've been on the books for like 30 years. And so if you are involved in domestic violence, if your partner so much as makes a phone call to an RCMP hotline, they can and will come and take your guns, take them to the RCMP station, and you might never get them back. You might not be able to have your license renewed. They might just not renew it if you have even a mutually agreed upon restraining order. Like say you and your ex, you can't get along, and you say, okay, well, we're just going to agree to stay away from each other. A lot of people will resist having that formalized because of this stuff, because the government will just come and take your guns. How's this? Imagine, Drea, this is what you have to do before you can get your driver's license. Okay, let me tell you what you have to do before you get your possession license. You have to provide the government your last 3 conjugal partners, whatever that means. Could be a one-night stand even. And they get to interview them. They get to tell the RCMP whether or not they think you're fit to own a firearms. So you better own a firearm. So you better leave your one-night stand on good terms, I guess, because the RCMP will be calling them. And that exists already. And Mark Carney's like, we're going to make sure that people involved in domestic violence can't have a firearm. Thanks. Good job. That's been around for the better part of 30 years. But he's the guy promising to make the streets safer and your churches safer with laws that are already on the books. Like, why doesn't he make murder illegal, double illegal, triple illegal it, right? Because this stuff already exists. Anyway.
Well, he mentioned when he was saying they're going to crack down on crime, he mentioned fentanyl. Well, it wasn't that long ago where he said we don't even have the fentanyl crisis that we do, and now he's going to crack down on fentanyl.
I don't. Right.
But I should add, I really like how Polyev is saying that they will bring the life sentence on the table for certain manufacturers of fentanyl. But with Brooksfield alone, I mean, you mentioned some of the stuff, but what about all the claims against them, even a lawsuit from Ontario that they breached Indigenous rights in 4 different countries, including Canada? Nobody cares about that, do they? I mean, if you look into the allegations in that lawsuit, it says that Brooksfield displaced Indigenous people, that it breached anti-slavery laws. On all of the controversy, including this latest with the tax situation, that alone should be making him tank in the polls. Yet we're seeing the opposite if those polls are legit. I'm glad CTV covered it, though. I'm glad CTV put it up. So.
Toronto's going to screw us. I'm very apprehensive. Torontonians, do not screw us. It'll be the end of your country as you know it.
I know, and it's, you feel so helpless out here in the West in British Columbia, just watching your fate unravel, and just hoping for the best for your local MP. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like you're just in Alberta, we quite literally can't vote any more conservative than we do. And it just doesn't get us anywhere. I'm going to skip over this clip about Polyev condemning President Trump for keeping tariffs on Canada while offering a 90-day pause for other countries. He says it remains a mystery why the president treats Canada worse than dozens of faraway countries who are not America's best friend. I don't think it's a mystery, Polyev. I think it is Carney. It's the negotiating team on the case. Like, we are adversarial and belligerent, and we won't come to the table. And our prime minister is Mr. Elbows Up. We're going to fight the Americans and blaming Americans for even bad things said on the internet. So that's why. It's not a mystery. Let's just move on. I want to show this clip, though, because yesterday the Liberals announced gun control measures, policies that already exist, I guess. And so because I think they see that Carney has maybe peaked. And so now things are starting to go the other way. Maybe, I don't know. So they're cracking out their favorite two wedge issues, guns and abortion. Well, while I disagree with Polyev's statement, this just took that wind out of the sails of the Liberals who, if they brought guns yesterday out as a policy platform, they're bringing abortion out by Friday afternoon. This just levels that argument.
Guarantee you there will be no laws restricting abortion passed when I'm Prime Minister. For 20 years, the policy of the Conservative Party has been that there will be no restrictions brought in on a woman's right to choose. It's been in our policy since it was adopted by our party members in the year 2004. So this is a 21-year policy adopted by our members and upheld at all of our subsequent conventions. So there will be no laws or other restrictions imposed on a woman's right to decide to do with her body as she wishes. And that is something that I am guaranteeing to you and to all Canadians.
Okay, so these Liberals, and this is to my chagrin, I'll tell you. The Liberals keep saying the Conservatives are going to take away abortion. They were in power for 10 years of these 20-some years. They didn't move on it, again, to my great dismay. But here's the difference between the Liberals and the Conservatives, is you can be a pro-life MP as a Conservative. You can go to the March for Life and say you believe that life begins at conception. You can go and you are not shunned by the party. You are welcome as part of the big blue tent, as they call it. I know so many pro-life Conservatives who go to the March for Life, who speak at the March for Life. And I'm talking about MPs. They are not run out of the party the way the Liberals won't sign nomination papers of Liberals who are pro-life. And I don't know how you could be. I guess Mark Carney claims to be Catholic, and I'll get to that in a second, while also being extremely, extremely pro-choice. And I think that's, on this topic, that's the difference between the two parties. One allows you to hold your deeply held views where, if you're someone like me, you believe your mortal soul depends on it. But the Liberals, they would have you damn yourself to a place in hell to join the party.
Mm-hmm. And there are pro-lifers on both sides. I know people on the left who are pro-life. There's a lot of Muslim people who are pro-life. There's a lot of people.
Hindus,
but people so just because you're pro-life, even your own members, your own voters, they're voting for, let's see, the Conservative or the Liberal. And the Conservatives have made this clear so many times. Every election they have to go through this because of the same song and dance they do to try to throw it. But if it's anything like the U.S., it's not even going to work this time around, maybe, because they did the same thing with Trump, and it was like nobody really cared. So
just staying on this issue before we hit an ad break. This from LifeSite News. Now, LifeSite is a Christian website. Oh, that's a beautiful picture of Our Lady of Guadalupe behind your your report bring there.
Every year in Victoria, It's actually a carpet, a really big rug.
Oh, beautiful. So this from LifeSite, primarily Catholic, but it's a Christian website. And they detail Mark Carney being caught on video receiving Holy Communion at Mass, during which the priest condemned abortion as murder and warned against mortal sin. And here's the thing. You cannot be Catholic, big C Catholic, and be pro-choice. It is incompatible with our faith. As the priest says, it's mortal sin. It is considered murder by the church. Sorry. It's okay to be Anglican. There are like a gajillion different denominations. Yeah. If our rules, you can't comply with them, that's okay. Go be Anglican. It's got all the pomp and circumstance of Catholicism without the heavy rules. Go do that. It's okay. We don't mind. But anyways, this is what happened. He said, during a live stream mass, Father Michael L. Nassef delivered a powerful homily condemning abortion, euthanasia, which the liberals are absolute radicals on, and receiving communion while in mortal sin. That's why they have confession before Mass. You have usually confession on Saturday, so you can go to Mass on Sunday and be in a state of grace. Carney presented himself for communion. He didn't even feel a tinge of conscience, right? Abortion, that's murder. Father El Nassef didn't hold back. You gotta love these priests from minority countries because they are so orthodox. They haven't been polluted by the Susans on the parish council. He said, if you lead someone to do it, that's also murder. We have a rule where you cannot be also complicit in mortal sin. So when they make St. Paul's, and they don't, but St. Paul's hospital in Vancouver would not allow the people to come in to administer euthanasia. So their staff are not allowed to, and they will not come get the patients and wheel them to the the euthanasia abattoir that's connected by a hallway. They won't take them down the hallway because they don't want to be complicit in mortal sin either, because
fair enough.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Father El Nassef reminded Catholics no one should approach the Eucharist, and the Eucharist is something different for us. And like I said, if you want the Eucharist in a different diluted form, that's okay. Go be something else. No one should approach the Eucharist in a state of mortal sin, especially not unrepentant public figures. Carney, who claims to be Catholic, supports abortion unreservedly. Just 2 days before the Mass, he reaffirmed this stance. I absolutely support a woman's right to choose. I will defend it. Even as he attended Mass that same morning. The Mass live stream shows Carney entering the Mass after the Mass has started. Oh, that would drive my mom crazy. When the readings were about to begin. Later, he walks up for communion and receives the Eucharist, then immediately leaves the church rather than return to his pew. I bet. My mom used to say that if Jesus ever came back after communion, he would be run over by the people leaving early. The church law is crystal clear. Those who obstinately persevere in manifest grave sin are not to be admitted to Holy Communion. That's Code of Canon Law 1915. We write this stuff all down. It's just there, and we know it. The Eucharist is not a photo op. It is Jesus Christ truly present, and that's why it's so important to us. We believe in transubstantiation. We believe that is the literal body and blood of Christ, and so for someone to take that into their body in a state of grave sin is just a horror to us. So public figures who defy church teaching with their votes and platforms must not receive communion, period. Where are Canada's bishops? Yeah. Where are Canada's bishops? Yeah.
Where are they?
LifeSite says, pray for Father El Nassef. Yes, good for him. There's a reason he had that homily, and I think it's because Mark Carney was in the audience. Pray for Prime Minister Carney's conversion. Yeah, if he is Catholic, convert back. If not, off you go. Be a Presbyterian. Go join the United Church. That's okay. Pray for a church that
drag queen story times over there. So
exactly. Pray for a church that we stop tolerating this scandal. Let us defend the unborn, and we believe it's sacred. We believe it is the body of Christ. And so I know that people look. It's okay. You don't have to believe the same as me. But as a Catholic, to see this, it is horrific to me. And it's such a disrespect and it's disregard. And we don't like our label of Catholicism bantied around by these progressive hypocrites and weirdos who just water it down, and they say, then it's used against us, like, oh, see, you can be Catholic and care and be pro-abortion. Just look at Mark Carney. No, you can't. The church is very clear. That's it. I just had to get that off my chest because
yeah,
he's
I'm
the
here
worst.
for it.
Yeah. Okay, we can skip the ad break because we have a special guest. It's Jasper Sun. Some of you may know him online as Mr. Sunshine Baby. I refuse to call him that. It's Jasper. And so Jasper is going to be joining us. He's based in British Columbia. Hi, Jasper.
Hi, how's it going?
And I guess you and Drea have more to talk about than you and I because you are based in BC. So I'll turn it over to Drea.
Well, first I want to start with saying hi and also pointing out that sign you've got behind you. I think you were involved in that, the Save Canada and Vote Pierre signs. Tell us a little bit about your analysis on what's happening with the federal election. You've been calling it so closely. What stands out to you? What do you think our viewers want to know?
Well, I think you got to be a little careful now about denying any of the polls, because I heard that CTV and the Toronto Star are using that as leverage to say now they're anti-poll deniers or whatever. But when you just look at the sheer amount of volume and in-person support by the two candidates, because this is really a two-party election, it's no surprise that Pierre is absolutely having, a super majority support over what Carney is. Carney's getting heckled, his ties to Beijing, this whole Epstein thing, and Pierre, people are showing up with hockey sticks with flags on top, and they're being super peaceful, and there's thousands, record-breaking, right? Over 15,000 that showed up in Edmonton, and no political event should ever be that big. Like, that's rock star level. That's like a Taylor Swift from Temu type of concert, but here we are. This is the world we live in Canada, where politics is the new rock star.
Absolutely.
I guess though, it's where those numbers are coming from. Like, it is no surprise to see 15,000, like NHL attendance levels, to see Pierre Poilievre just outside of Edmonton in an oil and gas industrial park. That makes perfect sense to me. It's and we can't vote Conservative any harder out here. Like, it's a big blue sweep. It's I want to see huge numbers from the Lower Mainland. I want to see huge numbers from Ontario. And we are, to a certain extent, seeing some of those. Like, we're seeing big numbers in Oshawa, not as much, though, in Hamilton. So I'm
here in Left
anxious.
Coast, in Left Coast, BC, we had a huge rally in Surrey. It was at least, they said 5,500, and then after they upped the number, but you know how politicians are. We'll stick with 5,500. I was there. It was huge. And, that's Surrey ridings. I'm sure people came from other places too, but Surrey in particular still votes Liberals and Conservatives, a bit of a blend out there as well. I want to talk to you, though, Mr. Sunshine. I'll stop there too. The baby part, I don't know. I got to get used to it. But let's talk. I mean, it's no secret that the secret weapon, the ammo that's being used by the Liberals is, of course, the tariffs. I saw that you had a sort of a different perspective, or I guess one of the theories that are going on about what you think is happening with Trump's tariffs, what you think his goal is on that. Let us know about that.
Oh my goodness. Every time I talk about this, I end up being abused by our BC premier and by CTV for being an American apologist. But I think that Canada's entire, across the political spectrum, and I hate to talk about this because we're in the election, and I've been critical of Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives leading up to the election, but now it's the election time, and I don't want to be overly critical right now when it's time to vote. Somebody had the Uncle Ben talk with me: with great power comes great responsibility, and I don't want to overstep that. And so I think that Canadian politicians really leaning into, we need to stand up to America from a position of strength, I think that's the wrong approach. I think
I
that you
hate
can be
it.
patriotic without being anti-American, and I feel
Yes.
very alone with that sometimes. But then when I see the community's reaction, it gets validated. But our politicians aren't listening. I don't expect the Liberals to ever do that. I don't expect the NDP, which is now going to be nuked off the entire political map. But I do expect the Conservatives to have a bit more of a analytical standpoint, because Pierre's, I think he on Jordan Peterson's podcast said that him and his team, they review social media trends and they see what is getting a lot of attention, what pushback is happening on social media and stuff like that. And they're not doing an adequate job when it comes to this. He did recently pivot away from talking about we need to stand up to America from a position of strength to we need to stand up to America from, like a stronger position, I think is the words that he used. So it's less combative, but it's still paving the way for this anti-American rhetoric. You need to just close that door. They're our largest friends and allies and trading partners. Our relationship with America is not over. It doesn't cease to exist the way it did, no matter what this illegitimate yet somehow legitimate prime minister is saying. We just need to come together a little bit more and realize that we're the little brother of America. You can be as patriotic as you want, but facts are facts. We have a tiny GDP that there's so many other states within America that have a larger GDP than us. So yes, we can be proud Canadians, but also you can be a proud little Chihuahua without trying to pick a fight with bigger dogs. And I don't like that sentiment. But maybe there's something going over my head, but that's my opinion.
I'm with you. Yeah, go ahead, Dre. I don't want to interrupt.
Well, I was just going to say, I think you struck at the core. We sort of touched on it briefly on how Poilievre right now just put out that statement, being so shocked about how come Canada isn't getting the pause either.
I'll tell you why. Mark Carney. That's what. That's why.
Well, we're still fighting. We're still elbows out. We're not negotiating and things like that. and it reminds me of the jar theory with the ants, when you put the red and the black ants together and everybody's fighting and go after. You have to look at who's stirring the pot, who benefits from all of this happening, the rhetoric that goes, why are we not trying to find a solution so that the tariffs actually stop?
And there's an opportunity in conservative messaging, and I don't know why they're not taking it. They should actually be drilling home the point that this is what we have before us is the destruction of the greatest trading and cultural partnership the world has ever known in the history of humanity. And the Liberals have destroyed it in 10 short years. They should not be trusted to fix it. Then it doesn't actually focus on the Americans or whatever the Americans are doing to us at all. It focuses on the real problem. And I think to some extent, Stephen Harper tried to make that point in Edmonton. Like, look, what you see before you has nothing to do with the Americans. The crime, the fentanyl, the housing, the inflation, nothing to do with Donald Trump. And the Conservatives should be saying, like, look, they burned it down. At least give us the chance to put it all back together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we should have been more sufficient as a country to begin with.
Oh, there's that too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I think we're going to get to when Sheila said the real problem, we're going to talk about some of the real problem when it comes to the fentanyl issues and British Columbia, how we've enabled some of that going on. But thank you so much for being a guest on the show. It was great to meet you, Mr. Sunshine Baby. I said it.
Jasper.
There you go. Loud and proud. Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, Jasper, wait, before you go, I want to give you an opportunity to tell people where they can find you, see your work, support the work that you do.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, Jasper Sunshine across all platforms. You just type that in Google or Mr. Sunshine Baby.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, let's hit it. Should we hit an ad break, Efron, behind the board? Okay, so he says no. We'll just go right into the next thing. Dre, I'll let you pick because we're running behind.
Sure, yeah. I'm just trying to find my way here. But basically, as we all know, the tariffs, in part, or the main part, is being used about the borders and fentanyl. And one thing we're also not doing as leaders is pointing out just how much of a culprit British Columbia is in that, and our leadership in it, and our the amount of Chinese fentanyl coming across the border. So something that interesting that happened in the MLA yesterday was independent MLA Dallas Brody proposed a private members bill that was tabled, and that is a Tariff Act relief. And it's proposing to have the provincial income tax be cut by 50%, a significant drop there. And they said that that's the largest one since 2001 under Gordon Campbell. If you go down a little bit there, the bill there, here, I put a note here, but something that was interesting about it is, if anybody's been following the Bill 7 threat. So David Eby, I don't know what's going on, but he is trying to grasp total economic power, use emergency measures by getting this Bill 7 passed. It's very concerning. If you think COVID tyranny, apparently this is way worse, like wartime measures. And so what it says here, that it will allow some of the same powers that Premier Eby is trying to seek through Bill 7, but it will use the powers only, it will only be allowed to use those powers to eliminate procedural obstacles to the development of natural resources, the building of public infrastructure, and economic advancement of British Columbia. So interesting. We'll see how it goes. It's going to go to the, see if it goes to second reading. But a lot of stuff has been happening out here. Sam Cooper's been doing some amazing work, really exposing just the interconnections that are happening between China and the rings that are going on. I don't know. He's got like a little map, the type of map. I think I need a space on the wall for some of my investigations, but
I know
he's got a map of some of the key players if we want to put his article up, just exposing. Yeah, there you go. So he's got look, you've got Trudeau on the top right
smokes.
there. Yeah, this is what I mean. And when you read it,
there's
there's
Christy
some players.
Clark.
Yeah, Christy Clark's in there. There's some players, of course, it's no surprise, like Senator Wu. I mean, even when I do a media inquiry, I will give Senator Wu some credit because he does respond to our media inquiries. I think he has to get the Chinese message out there. So he's very quick at that.
Yeah.
But researchers have linked China's intelligence and elite influence arms to BC government, the Liberal Party, and Trudeau appointed senator. So I would encourage you to look that up and just have a good read of what's going on there. Also note that Teresa Watt, she is listed on there. And again, these are allegations. Read it for yourself. But she is an MLA that crossed the floor from the former BC Liberal, BC United, and is now an MLA with the Conservative Party, of British Columbia. So a lot going on that front. I'm certainly going to reach out to him for an interview as well.
There's another, this tweet from Harman Bangu. He is the Conservative MLA for Langley, Abbotsford. And he says, under David Eby's NDP, our communities have become a playground for transnational drug traffickers. And this is why Trump is mad at us, by the way. These illegal fentanyl super labs discovered in Langley, Aldergrove, Mission, Pitt Meadows, and Richmond, busted by RCMP, equipped with high-end chemical gear used in academic labs. One suspect even bragged about having an advanced chemistry degree. God, this is like Breaking Bad. The NDP opened the floodgates with their reckless decriminalization, safe supply lies, and their soft on crime agenda. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room, Team China, as I like to call them. While deadly fentanyl pours in from China, David Eby and the BC NDP look the other way. Why? Because their government is too cozy with CCP-connected groups to stand up and protect British Columbians. There were warrants right here in Langley and Aldergrove, my community. The people I represent are being endangered because of the BC NDP negligence and incompetence. Enough is enough. You either crack down on this crisis or you're complicit in it. We need leaders who will stand up for public safety, not ones who bend the knee to foreign influence and criminal chaos. David Eby, this is on you. And then he links to a tweet where it just shows the absolute insane super lab.
It is insane.
Oh my God.
MLA Harman Bangu's been doing a great job calling out the nonsense like this. And I just want to also touch on what you're looking at there. So a quote from the article, you said a little bit on this, but it's equipped with specialized chemical processing equipment often found in academic and professional research facilities. And as you said, they bragged about pretty much that. And the photos released by authorities show stainless steel reaction vessels, industrial filters, and what appear to be commercial scale tablet presses and drying trays, pointing to mass production capabilities. These busts took place a couple of weeks ago, end of last month. I mean, we are such a problem here in British Columbia. I would love to hear David Eby's name mentioned on either side, the Liberals or the federal Conservatives, about being part of the problem a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Alberta has sort of been sounding the alarm bells about what a problem you guys are, because your pills are ending up killing Albertans when we are trying to take a different approach here, moving forward with forcible confinement of violent drug addicts, expanding treatment beds, building treatment beds on reserve so that people are close to home. And can stay in their cultural communities when they're going for treatment, which is something the feds are supposed to do. We're not responsible for Indigenous healthcare. They are, but they're not doing it, and Indigenous people are dying. We're trying to figure out how to do this. And I can't imagine the Americans see stuff like this, and then they see the mayhem in places like Seattle, and like that whole Seattle-Tacoma area. Well, they see that and they look at what's happening in the lower mainland of BC, they know where the pills are coming from. Exactly. That's why we have tariffs. And then David Eby is like, actually, we're going to tariff inbound truckers bringing stuff to Alaska. That's his solution when people point out that he's killing people with super labs.
That's why we are named in the actual Trump Tariff Act. British Columbia is named in there specifically for that reason. That's also why we are coined in Vancouver here the fentanyl capital of the world. That's why we have the highest amount of overdoses in the country. That's why when you guys went down 40% in 2023, we had our highest amount of overdoses in the same year, which was 2,000 fatal, which was 2,500. And that's why the leading cause of death for 10-year-olds in our province is overdoses. It's sick. And we rolled out an experiment instead of trying to help that has correlated in studies, shocker, with, of course, more overdoses with our decriminalization and so-called safer supply, where we were giving addicts drugs so that they could sell them to kids so they could get their drug of choice. And that way everybody wins, right?
Ugh, it's just so terrible. We've got a couple of chats here. We've got one from Billy Howard, gives us $2 and says, oh, good gracious, Efron, this is a very small screenshot. The MSM, the mainstream media is upping its bias. They're scared because if the Conservative Party of Canada wins, they'll appoint new people at CBC and make it #1, just like Fox News, by using the best programs and people from Rebel, Juno, Western Standard, etc. Thoughts? I am a one-time employee of the CBC. I don't know if you know that. They approached me once to write an article after I was thrown out of the Alberta legislature by Rachel Notley using an armed sheriff. The whole kerfuffle caused an inquiry into media access in the legislature in Alberta. Spoiler alert, the government can't decide who is and isn't a journalist. And they tapped me to write an article. I wrote one article. They paid me $300. And the left went absolutely bonkers because I had invaded their safe space with my dangerous point of view, that people should be allowed. They proved my point. My point was people should be allowed to hold their own peaceful viewpoints, and that shouldn't criminalize them. And so they sort of proved my point when they're like, what is she doing on the CBC? And my whole point was like, not all journalists have to be the same. It's okay.
Yeah.
And when I tried to say that to the people of the CBC, their people lost their minds. And I don't even know if that whole section of the CBC in which they allowed me to write exists anymore. But I was just happy to get $300 of my own tax dollars back at the end of the day. You know what? I don't want CBC to exist in its format anymore if the Conservatives get elected. I want it to sink or swim on its own. I don't want to go work for the state broadcaster that all of a sudden has a come to Jesus moment and should have conservatives and socialists and liberals all talking to each other instead of just four boring people with the same viewpoint nodding along with each other. If you've watched the ad issue panel, I don't want that. I want it to do whatever it wants to do with its own money. That's all I want. That's all I want. I don't want to work there. I'm happy here. You don't want me over there anyway. I want Rosie Barton to appeal to people. Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite memories, it was during my interview process with Ezra. And, I was speaking out online. That's how you guys found me. And I said, listen, I know I don't know much about politics, but I still don't want to be told, how to do a story, what feeling I should have when I'm doing the story. And I'll never forget, he said something like, that's why you're going to fit in here. Like, we all stand for simple, he's like, we all stand for simple principles like freedom, in the country, but we don't always agree with each other, and we are all different than each other. You'll learn that quickly. And I knew from watching anyways, but I love that was his response, was like, that's what makes you a rebel. So, come on board. Yeah.
Well, and I'll give everybody just a little insight into the process, the editorial process at Rebel News. I don't assign beats to journalists, and I don't really assign them stories unless there's like something that I'm like, hey, I don't know if you saw this issue. What do you think? But at the end of our daily little staff meeting where we all get together from all across the country and talk to each other about what's happening at the company, it helps us stay connected because we're all over the place. The journalists get together and I say to the journalists, what are you working on? And then we sort of collaborate and share ideas like, hey, I know something about this. Hey, did you see this? But they tell me what they're working on. And then I give them a thumbs up. And I very rarely say like, hey, you can't do this, because I don't know. Well, I do now. But you guys have things that are really important to you as journalists.
Yeah.
And issues that you're passionate about. And I feel if there's something that Drea is passionate about, then I feel like Drea, being a severely normal adult woman from British Columbia, there's a good portion of people in British Columbia who care about that issue too and want someone to tell the other side of the story. So I don't generally assign stories. They tell me what they're working on, and we sort of work together to put it all together. It is completely the opposite in other newsrooms. You have an assignment editor who assigns you stories, and even if you don't give a darn about it, you go out into the world and try to do a story pretending that you do. And I don't like that. It feels inauthentic, and I don't want to make you care about stuff that you just are not interested in.
Well, you do such a great job. I don't know if I'm severely normal, but I will say so. You're like my third conscience. They say you have the good and the bad. So I think I'm pretty good online with what I say. But then if ever I'm like, is this bad? I do go to Sheila and I'm like, Sheila, should I say this on X? Not very often, but it's like
very rarely.
I'm sure you guys have probably all experienced where you type something out on X and then you delete it. Sometimes
even I do it.
Maybe I'll double check. I'll bounce it off of Sheila. But then you did your forest post, about Mark Carney and his wife.
Soup Count Orlock. Because it's funny. Everybody can settle down. Okay, and we've got another one from Alex Greer, 279. And he says, keep up the fight. I think, Alex, that you can be assured we will. And we've got another fight just on the horizon. Stay tuned. We're not about to tell you all about it yet, but we will be asking for everybody's help in the fight because it's time to rumble. And we're gonna. So just stay tuned to Rebel News for the next couple of days because we'll let you know what's going on. But there's something percolating in the background that's big, and we'll need some help. I think that's it. Efron, is that it? Yeah, that's all the chats. Okay, perfect. I think we touched on everything that was in the headline. We went a little bit late. I do have some stuff I need to get to. Drea, thanks for co-hosting with me today, even though I feel on the wrong side of the screen, but that's okay.
Thanks for having me, and hello and goodbye, everyone. It was fun. Well, you were going to end
thanks.
it, right? But
yeah, I was. I am. Efron, thanks for running everything behind the board. Thanks to everybody who pitches in a little bit here at Rebel News to keep the lights on. We know that, there's less money left in your pocket than ever before. So we really do appreciate that you do choose us. Special thanks to our guests who popped on for a little bit, Mr. Sunshine Baby, Jasper. Find him on all the platforms. Have a safe and happy weekend. And I guess we'll see everybody on Monday. And as David Menzies always says, stay safe and stay sane.